Welcome to the Loving Your Sacred Vessel podcast. I'm your host, Lauren De Silva, and together we'll be exploring ways to love and appreciate your body so that you feel happier and healthier in your own skin. I'm here for all those ladies who have been caught in the diet trap, who have lost and regained the same pounds over and over again, and ultimately been left feeling like a failure. If you're ready for a different approach, one that treats you as a whole person, mind, body and spirit, Sacred Vessel could be just what you've been searching for. Welcome back to Loving Your Sacred Vessel. We're going to be talking about food in this episode, but probably not in the way that you'll be expecting. I realised that there's been a perfect storm brewing for many of us due to a combination of different factors connected with our modern lifestyle. Weight is a problem that's complex, and there are various strands that need unpicking. Loving Your Sacred Vessel has worked for me long term because I have taken an individualised approach. I'm not looking for a one-size-fits-all answer to weight issues and body image, and I'm not going to tell you exactly what you should be eating. I will have some suggestions based on my own experience and the experiences of those ladies who have been on my Sacred Vessel program, but this isn't a diet with strict rules. And that's part of the joy of it, and one of the reasons that you can live with the Sacred Vessel approach and adapt it to your needs and your lifestyle. It's actually the opposite of a normal weight loss diet. With those, and I've done plenty of them, you start off trying to be perfect, following all the diet rules to the letter, until at some point your willpower cracks, the diet goes out of the window, and you find yourself back at square one. With Sacred Vessel, you're going to build your momentum gradually, adding positive habits and behaviours over time. So you may not get dramatic weight loss in those early days and weeks, but your body will start to appreciate the changes you're making, and you start feeling better over time. I've been living my Sacred Vessel approach for 5 years now, and I really wouldn't want to go back to how I was before. I'll be introducing different strands of my program to you over these podcast episodes, and you'll be able to choose which aspects have got the most relevance for your life at the moment and your circumstances. I would like you to personalize your Sacred Vessel experience. I'd like you to choose how much or how little you take on board. You might also go back to earlier episodes and add in some of the elements that you skipped. In fact, I'd encourage you to do this because making small changes over time is much more likely to lead to real and lasting results than trying to do everything all at once. I'd love you to empower yourself as you make your own Sacred Vessel journey. One of the realizations that I made around food and around what we've been eating as a whole in the UK is that as humans, we haven't suddenly become weak-willed. We haven't suddenly become unable to stick to a diet regime. As a whole population, we're pretty much genetically identical to the people who were mostly slim back in the 70s when I was growing up. We haven't suddenly developed a whole load of fat genes. We've actually started wearing some larger sized genes spelt in a different way, of course. But people in the 70s didn't have superhuman levels of self-control. At that time, being overweight or obese was unusual. Back when I was in secondary school, there was only one girl in my class who was overweight, and Tina, thinking back, my heart really does go out to you. I remember her especially well because she was the other kid who was chosen last for team games every week. Our PE teachers appointed their team captains to pick the teams, and I was always left standing there until the very end. It was so humiliating. I was just hopeless at team sports. It was always a coin toss to say which one of us would be left standing there until last. Needless to say, I hated PE with a passion, and I dare say Tina felt similarly. We never spoke to each other about the experience, and I wish now we'd had that conversation. Back then, overweight teens really stood out just as Tina did. She'd have had a lot more company these days, and in fact, the majority of UK adults are now overweight or obese. That's roughly 2/3 of us. Isn't it shocking to realise that people who have a healthy BMI are now in the minority? And it got me thinking, if we as humans have not fundamentally changed as a species, something in the way we live must have changed. I have to say a little thank you to the paleo diet for clarifying this issue in my mind. Now, I didn't do the paleo diet, by the way. I had learned my lesson trying to do the Atkins diet years earlier as a vegetarian, and I could see that paleo was not a sane way for me to go as a non-meat eater. But the popular success of this diet made me think, why on earth would it be necessary to eat like a prehistoric human in order to be slim and healthy? The adults that surrounded me in my 70s childhood were mostly slim. So eating like Paleolithic man didn't make any logical sense. Surely we only needed to look at what had changed since we were mostly slim in the 50s, 60s and 70s, when most people were a healthy weight. I realised I needed to think more deeply. This wasn't a simple question of willpower or of eating the wrong food groups, and I certainly wasn't alone in my fight against obesity. It was very literally a growing problem. So how did being overweight become so normal? When did it happen? Why did it happen? I started to think about the changes we have lived through and the possible impacts they'd had on my weight and on other people's. Now, when I was young, my mum cooked our dinner. And that was normal back then. Most mums did all the cooking and made the meals from scratch. I don't remember any ready meals as a child. The closest thing would have been some tinned food occasionally, such as beans on toast or spaghetti hoops. Getting a meal out of a box and heating it up in its plastic tray is quite a recent innovation in human terms. And yes, I am aware it was mostly women who cooked the meals, and yes, absolutely, that was unfair. And yes, today women are often stretched by all the various roles and responsibilities they have, and I have been a busy working mom. I know what it's like to try to balance everything. Adding the cooking to your list may feel like a step too far, but perhaps you've been sacrificing a key pillar of your health in order to have convenience. Perhaps your priorities will need reconsidering. Think about it for a moment. What is your physical body made from? That old saying, you are what you eat, has got some truth in it. Have you been outsourcing the responsibility for your nutrition to food companies, possibly huge multinational corporations? Can you really expect them to care for yourself and your family in the same way as you care? I'm not saying this to attack major food companies, but their priorities for business are unlikely to match your own. They have to balance nutritional content of their products against the cost of ingredients, labour costs, shelf life, stability of the product, costs of transportation, packaging, design, and advertising. Making their foods tasty enough for you to go out and buy them regularly is just good business sense. And perhaps that includes some extra salt, some sweeteners, flavourings, food colouring or emulsifiers, or some other ingredients that you wouldn't add to fresh home-cooked food. In the end, A company has to look to its bottom line, to its profitability for its shareholders, and perhaps they're not going to be too concerned about the size of your own bottom. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you have to eat 100% home-cooked meals to lose your excess weight. Life has changed. People are time-pressured like never before, but there are some home-cooked meals that are quick and easy to put together and really don't take much effort. And there are dishes that can be on your table just as quickly or maybe even faster than a ready meal. And I can say this to you because at the start of my sacred vessel journey, I really wasn't that great at cooking. I had a few staple meals that I could make, but I remember going to friends' houses for dinner and thinking they were some kind of culinary magicians for the food that they could conjure up. And I'm still not the world's best cook. But since that realization, the realization that I needed to take more responsibility for my nutrition and stop outsourcing it to big food companies, I've made it my hobby to learn to cook. So these days I put my apron on, I get some music playing, and I treat cooking the dinner as part of my recreation, self-nurturing time. Before Sacred Vessel, I told myself the story that I just wasn't good enough at cooking, and I would often throw a ready meal into the oven, set the timer, and wander off out of the kitchen to do something else. Often that meant staring at a screen and then only reappearing when the beeper went off to serve the food up. Those days, thankfully, are gone. So if you don't normally cook, I don't expect you to declare, "That's it, no more ready meals from now on." Making small, sustainable habit changes is the key to the loving your sacred vessel approach. So for now, choose 1 or 2 recipes that you'll try out this week. Pick a time when you can pay proper attention to your cooking. I extended my own repertoire of home-cooked dishes over time. And some of them are super quick meals, handy standbys for when I'm busy. Others are more lengthy affairs, and I only cook them when I have more time. Find yourself a couple of recipes that sound tasty and give them a go. If you haven't been cooking for a while, pick something that looks easy with a short ingredients list and not too many steps. Read the recipe all the way through before you start. Get your ingredients out, prep them ready before you turn on the heat. The French call this mise en place, and please forgive my pronunciation. But since I got into the habit of being more organized like this with my ingredients and the equipment I needed, the whole experience of cooking has been much less frenetic, less stressful, and more of a pleasure. I started to clip out tasty sounding recipes from magazines, including the free ones that you can pick up in some supermarkets, and I've created a personalized recipe file, an A4 document wallet with clear plastic sleeves, and if I see a recipe that I like the look of, I snip it out, I put it in the front of the file. If I then try it out and we like the results, it goes into one of those sleeves. That keeps all the scraps of paper together in an easy-to-use way. They're protected against the food splashes in their wipe-clean sleeves, and looking through the folder gives me some inspiration when I'm feeling a bit stuck about what to cook. I also do something with my cookbooks that you may not approve of, but I think books should work for you. I don't believe books are something to be left on the shelf until they gather dust and the spine fades. The author has written that book to share their ideas with you. Let them live. I put in little removable flags like tiny post-it notes on the pages in a cookbook which have recipes I fancy trying out. And once I've cooked them, providing we like the result, I write the name of the dish and the page number at the front of the book. That means I can open the book cover. I can scan down a list of tried and tested recipes. It jogs my memory. I can easily find the recipe to cook it again. And I also annotate the recipes themselves. As my confidence in cooking has grown, I change things. Maybe I swap an ingredient out. Maybe I reduce the salt or add some extra liquid or make another adjustment. This way, by writing down the changes I've made, I'm not relying on my memory for the next time that I cook it. As an author myself, I will not be at all offended if you do the same kind of things with my own books. I want my books to look well loved and well used. So sometimes a new recipe hasn't been great. I admit it. I have had the occasional failed experiment. If a recipe goes wrong, treat it as a learning experience. Don't give up and say, oh, well, that just proves I can't cook. I do believe that with a little bit of patience, everyone can learn to cook. Now, a knock-on and unexpected effect of cooking from scratch over time is that my taste buds have changed. They are more sensitive to subtle flavours now. Pre-packaged meals usually taste much too salty for me, and my husband has noticed the exact same thing. The change to my palate did not happen overnight, but I do feel it's a beneficial one. I usually only put a fraction of the salt into my cooking now. Even if you add the full amount of salt that a recipe suggests, you'll probably have less salt in your food than was hidden in your ready meal. Pay proper attention to the cooking process. Don't be tempted to multitask or scroll on your phone. I really believe that creating your meal with intention makes a world of difference to the results. I believe that the care you take can also affect how good you feel about the whole ritual of cooking. Putting your attention into your cooking will infuse the food with the energy of your love and care. Just think about it. Eating a meal that's been cooked with loving care feels more nurturing. So let's round out this episode with a short loving your sacred vessel practice. It's time to make yourself comfortable, but if you're driving or working machinery or doing anything else that needs your attention, please keep your focus on that activity. You can always come back to this practice later. So, if it's safe, now you can close your eyes, relax, and take a few deep breaths. Know that the food you eat is providing your body, your sacred vessel, with the building blocks that she needs for her health and her well-being. Imagine in your mind's eye that you are cooking a meal. Perhaps you see yourself chopping up the vegetables, or maybe you're stirring a pan on the hob. As you prepare your meal, know that you're infusing the food with your loving, caring energy. And you might even imagine that energy as a coloured light filling the food, so that every mouthful will contain your nourishing, caring, loving energy. Know that when you sit down to eat, your body will be receiving your nurturing care along with the nutrition. You are honouring yourself and you are honouring your body. Know that you are someone who is worth making this effort for. You are worthy of your loving attention. And when you're ready, take a breath. Give yourself a stretch and open your eyes. I would love to hear what you've been cooking and your favourite recipes and where you've found them. And if you've been enjoying this podcast, you may like my Loving Your Sacred Vessel 6-week group program, where you can connect with me and others online over Zoom. I'll be leading you through the principles of this kind approach to caring for your body, to helping her release excess weight. Please visit my website via the link in the podcast description to find out more. So, until next time, look after your body, care for her, and know she is precious. She is the sacred vessel for your spirit.